Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Lee Clark 1-0.
Williams.
My first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing it.
Williams for Sunderland.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Hignett with the ball. On Iggy. You beauty. You Scouser Teesside beauty.
Worshipped every weekend. It's the three legends, banter and rivalry across the Northeast on the Toon, the Cat, the Red.
Oh, it's that time of week again. Fridays, 6 p.m. No, it's not Cracker Jack. It is the time for Clarky, Higgy and Daz Williams. Fellas, how are you all?
All good, dear.
Very well,
Not too
thanks,
bad,
Dave.
mate. Thank you.
Good. And Clarky's back? He threw in a sickie. Is it Christmas week?
No, that's
Tay
still
Tammy.
to come.
I'm sure he done that
Tay
once.
Tammy. I'm going to ask
Daz, you know that Tay Tammy shout could never happen with me. I was never quick enough to have Tay Tammy.
Sorry, Gaffer, I can't play. My hamstrings a bit tight. Yeah, love it. And enjoy yourself at the shops with the missus, lads. Yeah, we know what it's like. Did you? Come on, fellas. Let's have a. You're well and truly retired from your playing days now. So, Higgy, did you ever throw one in? Go Christmas shopping and anything like that? No.
No, never. There was one or two lads who used to have tactical bookings where if you got over the 5-card threshold, you got one game ban, which normally seen you're okay for New Year. But I know one or two have done that. In fact, didn't Gary O'Neill come out and say he'd done that?
He did
when he was at Borough.
Yeah, Gary O'Neill did. Yeah.
But no, it wasn't. I love playing too much, Dave.
To be honest, Dave, I think it was the opposite. I think you wanted to keep playing. It was the same if you ever moved clubs. You wanted to be on a long away trip when you were moving house, so your better half had to do the move. Oh, it's work, darling. I can't help you. It's work. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You can tell he had a few moves, can't you?
I wasn't clever enough to work that out, Dave.
Says the lad who scored the goal that just about put Borough down for Sunderland and lives on Teesside. Yeah, you didn't work that one out either, did you, mate? You didn't work that one out.
No, I didn't, mate. No, I didn't think about my celebration.
All right, let's get into footy then, fellas. I mean, it's great to have the local footy back. So tomorrow we've got 3 games across the northeast involving the 3 big ones. But it is off the back of International Week. So thoughts on England? Couple of games, draw against Ukraine, almost securing their place to the next stage of the Euros, and then the 3-1 tidy performance against Scotland. Where do we start? Clarky, what did you make of England?
Well, to be honest, Dave, the England-Scotland game was more competitive than Ukraine and England, and I think that goes down to the rivalry, even though it was classed as a friendly game, 150th celebration, the Scottish FA and all that. But I enjoyed watching the England-Scotland game more than I did Ukraine-England. I thought that one was a little bit slow-paced, not a lot of excitement in the game. Good point, tough point away from home. I think we just get used to England winning all the time in the qualification period, but sometimes, you've got to go to difficult places. There was a lot of emotion in the stadium that night as well, being in Ukraine. But no, I really enjoyed the England-Scotland game. I've got to say, I thought it brought the best out of the English lads, and the Scottish lads thought they'd got back into it 2-1. But England fully deserved the result, and some outstanding performances, and the standout one is from a very, very special player in young Jude Bellingham. I seen a couple of reports after the game and comments from 2 very important people who've played that position, who me and Higgy know very well. Obviously Brian Robson, who was Higgy's manager at Borough, and Graham Souness, who was my manager at Newcastle, who, when they played in that position in central midfield, were top of the tree. And they come out and basically said, if this lad can put trophies on his career, he can become one of the best ever. And he's obviously got a great chance of getting silverware while he's playing at Real Madrid. And I don't think that statement's too far from the truth. I think he's got the chance to be one of the best ever, and that's sometimes you can overhype young players, but what this lad does every time he gets a move to the next level or he steps up a level, he just takes to it like he's played there for years, and getting onto the full international stage, he took to it. Going to Real Madrid, where the pressure must be absolutely huge, he's just excelled there. So, and especially when you, as I said, you've got people like Brian Robson and Graham Souness, who were two of the greats in the game in that position, talk about you so highly like that. It means you're you're doing very well.
Souness was gushing, wasn't he? Absolutely gushing after the game with his praise for Bellingham. Higgy, he's a young lad. He's only 20 years of age. Yet Souness is calling him going to be one of the greatest midfielders that we'll have seen. But when you bear in mind he only had a couple of years at Birmingham City before the move to Borussia Dortmund, took that in his stride. Less than 100 games for Dortmund, and now he's gone to Real Madrid, taking that in his stride. How special is he?
Frightening is the answer. I mean, he's already world class. I don't think anyone would argue that he's not. At 20 years of age, what he's done, scored 9 goals in his last 8 games, and he's took a big step up. People sometimes say, these players who sign for big clubs, they need time to settle in. If you're a top player, you don't need any time to settle in. You just go and do it, and it doesn't matter who's playing around you. And that's what he's done. He's just gone in and he's done it. And it was interesting listening to him speak after the game. He said with the rivalry being what it was, and listening to their fans, and the atmosphere was incredible the other night at the Scotland game, he said it spurred them on. And players like him, it does spur you on. Some players it won't. Some players it'll intimidate, and some players will go into the shell. But the more he gets thrown at him, the better it is for him. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. And he's one of them players who, in tough times, he'll revel in them. And he'll get better and better. He's just he's phenomenal already. So it's frightening to think what he could be. I just thought he was sensational the other night. Not just his all-over game, but the presence he had in the final third, to when things got really hairy, scary around him, just to have that presence of mind to find a little pass, slip someone in, pretend he's going to shoot and slip someone in. Just the maturity he's got in his game it's something you very rarely see in someone of his age. And then the way he speaks after it, he's just, on and off the pitch, he's just a class act, and hopefully he can continue what he's doing, because it's frightening to see, really.
Daz, how would you cope with him if he was running at you?
I'd kick him, mate.
You kick him twice, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
No, mate, he's phenomenal, mate. And let's be honest, the lads have touched on there. He is world class. And he's such a young age, and a long way to go in his career as well. We're hoping obviously to see him even better. Later on down the line. But I just think we play some great stuff. I mean, even Foden stepped into the side, and he's he's such a talent. I think we've got some exciting young players in there. I'm just hoping his brother turns out exactly the same as him, because we'll be absolutely buzzing.
They're similar though, Daz, aren't they? They're quite similar the way they play. In position wise.
Totally, mate. Yeah, I mean, very similar, mate. Obviously the style of play, the way they play, like you say, position wise. At certain areas of the park that they pick up on as well. So for me, obviously exciting times, obviously for England, but exciting times if his brother can turn out exactly the same.
Did you find that, Clarky? Did you find
it's
that
a great example, isn't it? Yeah, listen, he's a great example for young Job to have, and he'll be learning off his brother. Obviously his progress has been a little bit more slower than obviously Job. So they've got he'll be enjoying seeing his brother's success. He'll be learning off him. He'll be watching what he does. He's settled in really well at Sunderland in a little bit of a different role that he's played in his previous times as a young player that I've seen him play at Birmingham and also representing England when I've watched him alongside my son. So he's took to that and he's been brilliant for Sunderland, and so he might take a little bit longer to develop in terms of getting to the stage where Jude is, but Jude's done it in just crazy amount shortness of time. He's gone Birmingham City, 16-year-old, Borussia Dortmund, straight into the Bundesliga, Bosch, took that by storm. Full international, Real Madrid took that by storm. Now he's, as people are saying, and rightly so, he's being talked about as one of the very best. And as I said, Sunderland fans can be excited by having young Job because he's got the perfect example and the perfect mentor. They're really close. The family are super close, you know. And the two boys, they live in each other's pockets. And he'll be asking all the time. He'll be asking how to get to the next level in terms of Job, in terms of his level of performance. So I think Sunderland fans should be excited by how he can improve and get better. He's had a great start to his Sunderland career, I've got to say. And it's brilliant when a good family and two good lads like that do really well for themselves. You can only not be happy for them. They're great people.
Clarkie, do you see any similar traits, or do you see a trait that Jude has that maybe Job doesn't have?
I see massive similar traits, Higgy, to be honest. I see a real arrogance on the pitch without being too cocky. And you'll know when we've played the game, you know what that means. You've got to have belief in your ability. You've got to be able to deliver and back up that arrogance without being too cocky. And I think they're very humble, and I think they both have that. Obviously, Jude at this moment in time is delivering on a bigger stage. But, young Job at 18 years of age is delivering it for one of the most expectant group of fans, in England, in terms of the Sunderland fans playing in front of big crowds. They are very similar. They do. I mean, if there's anything, I think obviously Jude is potentially more in terms of if he can play the deeper role, more of a box-to-box midfield player than young Job. He can come in off the line or play as a 10. When he does the 8, he's not probably at Jude's level at the moment, but who is? There's still time for him, So, yeah, listen, they followed each other, and obviously his younger brother is trying to follow his older brother, who's a sensational talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for you, Jazz, isn't it, as well?
I mean, it's brilliant, mate, to be fair. I think the good thing for me is, you've got Job, who's obviously, the younger brother, obviously looking up to his older brother type thing. But I don't think he feels the pressure of that. Do you know what I mean? I think he's dealing with it extremely well. I think he's going about his own business and his own job, in the right way. I think sometimes, people are saying, comparing him, this, that, and the other. I mean, obviously, I know I've said there, I hope he turns out exactly the same, but, I hope he turns out better. In all honesty, and I
listen, how hard's it going to be for him, though?
Well for a young lad.
How hard's it going to be, Daz?
I think you make a good point, though, Daz. I think you make a good point about Job. Job's not trying to be what Jude is. Job's trying to make himself a successful career on his own, and I think that's an important factor in all this. He's not trying to chase after his brother's success or try to be similar. Yeah. He's going to be his own type of player, and he's going to be a special player as well, without a doubt.
Is it going to make it harder for him, though, lads? Is it going to make it harder for Job to see what Jude's doing and to almost live in his shadow, even though he's a top player in his own right? Is it going to make it harder for him?
It could,
or is his personality that way where he's all right?
I think he's all right, mate. And I think, for a young lad, he's looking up obviously to his brother, but I think he's taking his own path. And I think he's dealing with it extremely well. And I get it, obviously, he's always going to be compared to, the press are always going to be comparing, etc., this and the other. But I think from a fan's point of view, I think, we've got Job, and it's about Job. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we obviously want Jude because he's a British lad. Obviously, he plays for England. We want him to do extremely well. But we want Job to do well. We want Job to have his own path and his own career. And I think that's what his brother would want. And I know they're extremely close family, like we've touched on. But for me, he's going about the business in his right manner at the moment.
So they're both absolutely focused, aren't they, and determined. You can see that you could see it when Jude made his England debut when he was really young. You could see that it didn't faze him. And is Job the same? Has he got the same attributes as Jude that way, Clarkie?
Without a doubt, I think it's the upbringing they've had. Higgy, their father was down in the Birmingham area. He played at a high level in terms of non-league, successful footballer in his own right. Is an ex-policeman, a lot of discipline in his life there. His mum she's absolutely brilliant. Dotes on the two boys and supported them wherever they've gone in their playing careers. And the family are just absolutely perfect. If there's any kind of model that you want to follow in terms of, being parents of young footballers and being young footballers and how to do the right thing, they're the perfect one, and they're reaping the rewards. And you can only see them going from strength to strength at this moment in time. I know we all talk about young players that have the ups and downs, and there will be times where things don't go right, but at this moment in time, their two careers have just been on an upward curve, and that's because of the family situation they have. As they were young boys, you can imagine all these different companies and agencies wanting to be involved with the boys. The father wouldn't allow anything like that. He wanted the boys just to focus and enjoyed playing their football. No need for agencies to be involved, and I think that's helped them in a big way. And they're reaping the rewards now, and you can just see them going from strength to strength. And if there's any little bumps in the road, that sometimes most people do, but these two lads seem to be just upward curve at the moment. As I said, they'll be able to handle it, and it's when I got to keep repeating, when good things happen to good people, you can only be happy for them, and certainly that family deserves everything that they're getting at this moment in time.
Well, here's a question for you both. With Jude doing what he's done, are you shocked? And no disrespect to Sunderland, obviously. Are you shocked that a big club hasn't come in, tied Job up, and then sent him out on loan? Or do you think that may have already been talked about, and they've just turned it back and said no, we don't want that?
Speaking from the perspective I knew the family from, I think that possibly was options for Job. But I think the family would have thought, no, we don't want that. We want to go to a club where one of their players were owned by that club. And as we've already talked about earlier in the season, Christian Speakman, Michael Dodds are two lads who've played massive parts in the Bellingham family, in the two boys and their progression, and also know the parents really well from that time at Birmingham. Christian being the academy director and Dodsey being one of the Job and Jude's coaches in the younger age groups. So they wanted to, if they were going to move, people who they knew, and where Job especially was going to get the opportunity to play. And Sunderland's project, Sunderland's model at this moment in time is good, hungry young players, and I think he's fitted in really well. And I've got no doubt there was possibilities to go to bigger clubs and then we'll loan you out. I don't think that was something that they would wanted to consider. I think they want somewhere settled. As we said, and we've joked about it, one parents with Jude, one parents with Job, and they wanted that. They didn't want to go to a club then. Oh, well, Job's not ready for the first team. Yeah, maybe he's in the Premier League. We'll loan him out, and there's a little bit of a move in the offing there. They wanted a strong club. And listen, we all know we're a little bit biased up here in the North East, but we know that the three clubs that we have, the two that are in the Championship at the moment, that the Premier League clubs in the weight and the facilities are terrific, both at the stadiums and training grounds. So, when you get that opportunity and the size of the crowds they get and the expectation of those crowds means that you're basically playing in a Premier League club by the position that they're in, and hopefully, that can be sorted sooner rather than later for the two clubs. Same with you, Daz?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to echo what Clarky says there, mate. For me, he's at a great club. He can further his career. He's still young. He's got loads of bags of potential, a fantastic attitude, and who knows? Looking at him, and obviously the way he's changed over the games as well. To be honest, because if you remember rightly, going back before that the win, there was talk about him not being in the side. There was talk about him being on the bench. I think obviously Tony stuck with him. He had faith in him. He came out, obviously, got himself a couple of goals. And then he's just improved. His confidence is through the roof at the moment, and and long may that continue. And there's plenty of time for him to move on, mate. To obviously a I say a bigger club, but obviously Sunderland are a big club, but is potentially moving on to such a high standard. The way he's going.
Higgy, you seem to be upsetting people around the Wayside area. Sam in Huntler Springs WhatsApp the studio to say, tell Higgy, Job is at a big club.
No, I didn't. And if you listen to me, I said no disrespect. That's okay if I say that. I can say what I want about Sunderland after it.
Yeah,
it's not a problem.
It's like that magical word allegedly. Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
mate.
I mean, what you're talking about really, I'm not talking the size of club. I'm talking about the level of the club. If Sunderland's in the Premier League, it's different kettle of fish. It's different. But at some point, every player wants to play at the highest level they can, and they want to test themselves against the best players. And there'll come a point where he'll want to do that if he's doing well enough at Sunderland. So really it's a win-win, isn't it, for Sunderland? They've got a player with fantastic potential. They've seen what his brother's done. He's quite similar in some respects to his brother, and if they benefit from him doing the business for Sunderland, then they're going to get a lot of money and the club's going to be in a better position for it. And who's to say, they got close last year, who's to say that Tony doesn't pull another rabbit out of a hat, get them in the playoffs and they get up? You never know, do you? So I think at some point he'll want to play in the Premier League if he does the business at Sunderland. But he's still a young lad. I mean, I think back to where were you at 18? You know what I mean? Can you think what you used to were doing at 18? At 18, I was at Crewe on loan at Stafford Rangers playing in the conference. That's where I was at 18.
Yeah.
And to think that these
I
lads
was at York, mate.
Yeah. Was that your loan? Was that a loan?
No, I started at York, didn't I?
You started at York,
mate. So
had you played any first team games, Daz, at 18?
I broke in the first team, mate. Yeah, I'd only just broke in the first team, mate. Yeah.
So that's it, Clarky. I know you were young, weren't you, when you?
Yeah, I was in the first team by then. Higgy got started at 17 through Jim Smith, and then when Ozzy Ardiles come in, he gave a load of us youngins a real good run in the team. Really, club didn't have a lot of money then in terms of bringing players in, so Ozzy turned to the youth. There was about 7 or 8 of we, which was brilliant for us. So yeah, 18 playing for Newcastle, and as you say, the expectation of those 3 clubs that we've got up here is huge. So
but
even more so, you feel a little bit as well.
Yeah, well, you think at 18 there's no fear, is there? You think you know everything, but if you look back now,
exactly.
You think to yourself, "Oh my God, what was I doing?" Or what? You'd change things straight away, wouldn't you? About how you acted or how you. Things that you've done in and around it all. It's
the difference now. The difference now, Higgy, as well is no matter how young they are or how old they are, the pressure that's put on them with like social media and all that. You're getting everyone commentating on their performances on all these different, places of social media, the TV, the scrutiny, the cameras. It's really tough on the young lads now. We had to just worry about the newspapers, didn't we? That was it. Whether we're getting a 7 or an 8 out of 10 off. If the local journalists give you 5, you wouldn't speak to them for a couple of weeks or something like that. You know what I mean? So it was
that brings us on to: would you have had Twitter, or X as it's now known? Would you have had it back then when you were playing?
I wouldn't have it now.
No.
I got advised by the LMA to take up one certain part of social media, which is Instagram, which I do on a small basis, just to let people know about my profile now and then. That's a bit more of just like showing photographs, being a bit more positive. Twitter, I wouldn't go and it's absolutely it's horrific. I mean, when I was manager at Birmingham, my oldest son, he was on it, and I used to have to tell him, he used to get in spats where he's trying to protect his dad, but I used to have to say to him, listen, we've had a bad result, your dad's going to get slagged off on this type of social media zone, you're better off not having it. So, I mean...
And it's hard for kids, isn't it?
Of course it is. If someone's having a pop at their dad, you know what I mean? Whether, even though we've lost a game, and the Birmingham fans at the time were hurting at certain results and stuff like that, but, no kid's going to let anyone have a pop at their parents, are they? So, and it was like, just try and keep off it, but it was difficult. And, you see what's happening now. I mean, that eases us into the next topic of this week when we've had no league football football for the three clubs is the Harry Maguire situation.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot. I think, hey, Higgy, you'll know, I've known Gareth, obviously I played against him and I've been in a couple of England squads with him, but you'll know him better than me with the connections at Borough. And I think it would take a lot for Gareth to respond the way he did in midweek, and I think that was a manager who's basically had enough. He came to the end of his tether in terms of he was a lad who's never let him down, been terrific for England no matter what anyone says in terms of lack of game time for Man United, etc, etc. Whenever he's played for England, he's been brilliant. He was in the team of the last World Cup, he was in the best team of the last Euros, and when he's played for Gareth, he's been exceptional. So when you're a manager, and we've both been there, when you're a manager and someone does that for you, you feel the need that sooner or later, you try and bite your tongue. You don't want to get involved with it. You don't want to put fuel on the fire because you know that it's a big talking point out there. But then it becomes enough is enough, and I think that's what happened after the Scotland game with Gareth. I think he thought, no, this lad doesn't deserve this. He's a tremendous professional. You know, he is a good player. He's at a massive club. He was captain of that club at one stage, you know, and whenever he represents England, he does the job for them. And, you know, Gareth, as I said, he thought this was time to come out and protect them. You know, it's not just about protecting young players as well. If there's some senior lads going through scenarios like this and he felt it was unjust, you have to protect them as a manager. If you think something's not right, you have to protect your players, and Gareth done that with Harry. I just wonder what your thoughts on it, lads, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, I've had something. His mum came out, didn't she, and put something on social media just to say, listen, it's what's going on. No one ever wants to see the kids going through that. It's disgusting, the amount of stick and ridicule he's getting. I agree with you, Clark. He's been fantastic for England, and I can't see, you know, his troubles at Man United, and people love to have a pop at Man United when things aren't going well. You know, me included as a Liverpool fan, but for him, you know, he's had a bad time. I don't think he's played as well as he can do for his club, but he's never let anyone down in his country, and I think it's hard, especially as a parent, and they've obviously felt the need with social media and the way it is. They felt the need to come out and defend him, which he would, just like his manager has. You know, you'd expect his mum to come out. But there's sort of an unwritten rule in football, isn't there? And we all know it. We've all been in dressing rooms where your mum can't say nothing to anyone.
Aye.
I've had it. I played at Oxford years ago. Robbo was manager. I got took off, and I kept getting taken off. It was when they started signing the big players, and I was always the first one to get taken off. And me wife at the time rang in, Ali Brownlee, who was doing the talking after the commentary with Bernie Slavin. So after the game, Ali sees me and he went, "Oh, we've had your wife on." I went, "What?" "Oh, we've had your ex-wife on." I said, "What did..." She said, "Oh, he's the whipping boy. Robbo will always bring him off first because he hasn't paid money for them and it's a disgrace." And I went, "Oh my God." So the first thing I did is I got the phone on straight away, phoned her up. "What are you doing? You're embarrassing me." And it's like an unwritten rule. You know, my mum done it as well. My mum sent a Christmas card to Brian Robson just because my mum does it to everyone. And then obviously Robbo's brought it down, showed it to the lads, and the lads are like, "What? Are you going to give him a game on Saturday or what?" And then the same, I'm phoning my mum up saying, "What are you doing, mum? You're making me look bad." So it's something that
I tell you what,
that
Higgy,
happens, but you do feel embarrassed with it.
I tell you what, Higgy, you're spot on. And obviously, I've got the scenario with my boy in that at Liverpool, and you know, I've played the game and managed, and you see I'm never going to get involved, but it is difficult not to. It is difficult not to, when, especially in the social media world we're in now, when things and things are said which you know aren't right or shouldn't be right or shouldn't be said. It is difficult not to respond. You know what I mean? Mm. And that's coming from someone who's like myself, who's played the game and been a manager in the game, and I've had to bite my lip a few times and just walk away from stuff, and you know, because ultimately, like we say, and it's been said by a lot of people this week regarding Harry Maguire, It's not just about the player. I mean, I for me, like I said to you, when I was the manager at Birmingham, it wasn't a problem. I had to, stop that noise from coming to me. I just had to focus on my job, and I knew if I didn't get a result, that I'd be getting grief on social media. That came with the territory. So it's different for families at times, and that's what you sometimes do and see. It's the immediate family or whatever who feel the brunt of it. But like you say, mums and that getting involved in our day, we would have been absolutely battered. But we would have in it. And
well,
people would say, Clarkie's living in the past. But yeah, I probably am. But that's the way it was in our day. But the way the world's changing, not just in football, in any sport, in any walk of life. It's a bit different now. Look at the scenarios that you had with Jadon Sancho responding and basically having to pop back at his manager Eric Ten Hag. Demarai Gray, a boy who I know well, I gave him his debut at Birmingham when he was 16, having to pop back at Sean Dyche. I mean, I'm thinking when I was their age, Jim Smith was my manager. If I'd have said something like that to a journalist that went in the public domain, wow, God knows what would have happened to us the next time I seen him. Do you know what I mean? And it's exactly, that was the fear factor we had.
Yeah.
Of course it is, and we have to grow up in that world.
But do you think that's made it worse now? There's no fear factor, is there? So even Sir Alex now, if he was starting again, he wouldn't be able to command the same. He probably thinks he could, but he wouldn't be able to command the same fear factor as he did back then, because people, they don't put up with it. He'll get done for. People that accuse him of bullying or people one thing or another. You can't. There's a way you've got to behave now, and I think people are getting, certainly the younger players are getting a little bit soft because they don't hear anything until they get up to first level.
You probably experienced this, Higgy, when you were manager, because I experienced it when I first.
I did massively. Clark.
When I first started at Huddersfield, I had the power as the manager, so. Agents would come to me, players would come to me to talk about contracts, or if I want to sign a player, then I would recommend these players to the owner and the CEO, and then they would go on to do the financial deals. I never wanted to get involved in that. But towards the end of my managerial career, like the clubs that I was at, at Kilmarnock or Bury or wherever I ended up, they didn't see me as the important person. So the agents or the player would go direct to the CEO or the owner, because basically what they were saying is you could be gone in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So what's the point in talking to you? And that's the way I seen it from then, and it was like a little bit scary, to be honest. And I since I've been out the game in terms of the management side, you see some of the things now. It's like a little bit what I was going to touch on later. I like about my club, Newcastle. Tough start the season, lost 3 out of the last 4. Not all Newcastle fans, but I am hearing some stuff coming back from social media and a little bit of feedback from the fans saying, how long's Eddie Howe got? And it's absolutely the most craziest statement I'm hearing in the world. Even to the fact where our Saudi chairman had to come out and make a statement, and then all of a sudden that gets jumped upon as if it's the dreaded vote of confidence. Here's a guy who took a club that was just about to get relegated, made brilliant signings in his January window, summer signings fantastic, took us to a level that we shouldn't have been at. And yes, we've found it hard this year. We had a tough start this season. There's been some good passages of players in those games, and there's been some not so good. But come on, if the game has to turn full circle and it has to say, right, enough's enough. Managers have to be given time. If you think back, Daz and Higgy, we never had the scenario where we thought if after 2 or 3 losses, our manager's going out the door. Never. Because it was the player. We got the fingers pointed at us, the players, not really the managers then.
Yeah.
And it was down to us. Mate. And it's flipped on its head a little bit. Whereas now, as soon as a couple of, and I get the reasons why, but I'm just a little bit bemused. And it's, by the way, it's a small minority in Newcastle fans, and majority are terrific. And I know tomorrow they're going to be outstanding, getting behind Eddie and the lads. But when you hear it just disappoints you a little bit to think, wow, here's a guy who's done that. If he's going to be under pressure after 4 or 5 games because he's had 3 losses from those games, the rest of them need to start worrying a little bit.
Exactly, mate.
If they have,
Short memories, aren't they?
Clarkie,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, if they have 3 more losses, does that change?
Not in my eyes, mate, but I'm looking at it from a managerial and a fan point of view. But I'm sure it will get stronger, without a doubt. Tomorrow, for me, I've been watching a lot of footage the last couple of days. I've seen a couple of the players' interviews. Obviously, Dan Byrne, being a local lad, he come out and said, focus, we're not even thinking about Milan on Tuesday. Tomorrow night's more important than that. Get us back to being the team we were, get us back to winning ways, and then we can go to Milan in the Champions League and have a bit more confidence. You know, it doesn't matter how good a player you are, how good a group of players you are, when you're not winning, it does give you a little bit of self-doubt, and you're going in the next game and saying, can we maybe nick a 1-0, a scruffy 1-0 to just get we're back on track again, get that belief back in the group, in the dressing room, feel that winning feeling again, and we can kick on from there. But Higgy, without a doubt, in today's world, you go another 3, so that would be, only 1 win in what, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows.
Well, listen, I think the next 2 games for them, you've got Brentford, that's coming up tomorrow. Obviously, the Milan one is a free hit for me. It's almost a showpiece game for them. And then you've got Sheffield United, I think it is that away from home. Now, them 2 league games, I think you've got to win them both. I would think Newcastle would want to win them both, just to get them up and running and get them going again. And I think the games that they're expected to win as well. Apart from the City and Liverpool one, I could go anyway. The Brighton one for me was a bit of an eye opener. If they follow that up with a dodgy one against Brentford and then, one against Sheffield United, that would be a bit like I am with Borough, really. I'd be a little bit worried about that.
I totally agree, Higgy. I mean, obviously John was on in place of us last week, and don't know how John's seen things, but for me, the last game, Brighton, you'll understand this, saying you 2 guys when I say it, is your best 11 isn't always your best 11 players, is it? Your best 11 is having that balance. And when I watched against Brighton, Newcastle, we were very unbalanced with the midfield 3. And I say that because Tonali, top class individual, Gamires, top class individual, Joe Linton, top class individual, but they all want to be on the front foot, they all want to be bombing on, and we were so open, our back 4 had no protection, so it was easy for Brighton to go from back to front into Ferguson's feet, who's top class by the way, into his feet, little touch and spin, or for him to come off deep into that little pocket like he did for the second goal, I think, and turned. So we didn't have that one midfield player. When I'm saying defensive midfield player, it doesn't have to be like a brilliant defending type. When I talk, like when you think about defensive midfield players, Daz, you'll know this, like a Kevin Ball type who's got that defensive mentality and is strong in the tackle and win these tackles and win these headers. But now you can still be a good defensive midfield player even if you haven't got that type of mentality. What you just got to do is try and protect your 2 centre backs. And give that opportunity where the ball kind of go into their feet, because obviously Newcastle, Eddie wants to play on the front foot. His full backs are bombing on, his wide players are bombing on, his striker, those 2 it was 3, that was the problem against Brighton. So I'm thinking even if one of those attack minded centre mids just sits and protects where that one pass, it does, you've been a centre back, you don't want a straight pass coming into the striker unopposed, because it means they can start attacks, and that's what happened against us against Brighton. It'll be interesting tomorrow. There's talk of Tonali's picked up an injury in international duty with Italy, but I think even if he hadn't have, I think Eddie would be considering bringing young Sean Longstaff back into the fold to maybe give that midfield 3 the balance again. Like I said, definitely. This is no criticism of those 3 individuals. They're top quality. But sometimes your best 11 players do not give you the right balance for that team to go and get results.
Totally, like you say, mate, it doesn't have to be somebody who's going to go in and win tackles. It could be somebody who's clever, who cuts off that straight pass into the centre forward, who puts himself in a position that, kind of slows the other team down or prevents them, hitting that front man nice and early. Do you know what I mean? So the game, obviously the game changes all the time, mate. But it's those type of things that you do need. It is that balance, and I think it's some people have got to understand that, because you leave people, if they leave certain players out, they'll be like, oh, why have they left him out? He's a fantastic player, yeah, but the balance isn't right. Do you know what I mean? You need somebody in there just as that protection, and And I think people need to understand that a bit more, mate, because obviously, it's a tough job. You all know that. Obviously, managerial level, you've got to get things right. And if you don't, and if you're just putting your best players, what you think is your best players, like you say, with that balance, it just helps.
I mean, it's even better if you've got someone with that defensive mentality, and like Daz, me and you had it with Bawley. He was different class for me. I was an attack-minded midfield player, and all Bawley would say to me is, I'm going to do all your dirty work. I'm going to be winning the headers and the tackles. Just make sure you're 5 or 10 yards beside us, so when I win the ball, I can give it to you. I mean, Higgy, you've probably, because you're attack-minded type of midfield player, stroke attacker, you probably have defensive midfield players you played alongside who've done that job as well. And those lads usually go unnoticed.
Yeah, well, Gary Flitcroft was probably one of the best. Not a massive name, but a really good player who was like hard as nails, run through brick walls for you. He done all the dirty bits. Robbie Mustoe was another one who done that. Robbie would get about, but he would read things really well, get a good foot in, and just set people on the way. He was Jamie Pollock when he came onto the scene. He was the same. He would go and tackle anything that moved. So there was a lot of players like that, but sometimes I think you need that one, just so that, like you said last week, when Evan Ferguson comes off and gets turned and then scores a goal, if he's coming off into someone who's defensively minded, who's looking, not so much looking forward, but they're looking behind them to see where people are and where they're coming off. And it's a different... I can't get that mentality because I'm a forward-thinking player, and Clark, you probably the same. I never looked behind me. I didn't care who was behind me or who was coming and playing in behind me. I wasn't bothered. I was bothered about, yes, we've won the ball, let's go forward. And that was it. Whereas these lads now, they're so cute and so aware. And when they've got the ball, they're actually thinking about losing the ball. So they're thinking, right, if we lose the ball, where's it going to go? And these top players get themselves in positions where if they lose the ball, someone tries to break it, they're there. And they step across and get feet in all the time. Fabinho used to do it brilliantly at Liverpool in his, the first 2 or 3 seasons he was there. He was fabulous at it. Jordan Henderson, when he played there, was really good at reading where the ball was going to go and get himself in. And it's noticeable when you've got a player who does that. And that's why sometimes I don't mind, like England do, they play with a 2 who sit because they've got so much attacking ability going the other way. You can afford to play with a 4. If you've got 2 attacking fullbacks, even better, because you can play with a 4. They can bomb on, and you've still got your 2 sitters and your 2 centre halves, and everyone else can go and play. I just think it gets criticised sometimes when you've got 2 sitting midfield players, but it makes more options, particularly if you've got really attacking fullbacks who can get forward. I think it's a really good way to play, and Gareth has done it really well at times for England.
Yeah, I think it's all about the balance, and as managers and head coaches, you have to get that balance right, and you want to protect. And I mean, in terms of the Newcastle scenario, even the brilliant start of the season, the 5-1 win against Villa still had a lot of chances in the game. They could have scored 3 or 4 goals themselves. So that's telling you that things aren't defensively as strong as they had been last season, because the defence... the goals against Colin was superb last season for Newcastle. Pope was in magnificent form, back 4, different class. I mean, obviously missing Botman against Brighton in the last game was a huge one. I think that just shows, even though he's a young centre back, how good a player he is. But I think tomorrow there might be 1 or 2 changes just to, as a manager, you're looking, right, how can I freshen this up? How can I get a little bit of new impetus in the team? Obviously, Callum Wilson coming off the back of signing a new contract today. He's come off the bench in the last couple of games and scored. We all know sometimes it's really difficult coming off the bench and making an impact, but he's shown he can do that and score. He scored when he started and come off, so there might be a chance he starts tomorrow. Possibly Alexander Isak going to the wide area, with potentially Almiron dropping out or whatever, but... there's all those possibilities, but I think going back to it all is where we started the conversation, that the expectation level just of all our clubs just needs to just be a little bit different at times.
Fellas, just before we go on to, obviously, Sunderland, their trip to the Smoke, Borough going across to Blackburn, coming up 7 o'clock, black and white and red all over with Ian Murtagh. 38 seasons he's been writing about North East football. He doesn't look a day over 70, does he? Now, Ian's here now. What's on the show tonight, Ian?
I'm not talking to you, Dave, after that.
Thanks, mate.
Well, it's good to have you back, Clarkie. And last week, with John Henry sitting in your seat, we were talking about G-strings, weren't we, lads?
Well, you were.
I was trying
by the way, by the way, I'm glad I missed that one, mate. You see the size of my backside.
Anyway, listen, like you, it's
you could have wore two, Clarkie.
Good to have Premier League football, Championship football back. And one of my guests, good friend of yours, I think, as well, is Jeff Brown, who... coming hot-foot off presenting Look North, we'll be talking about his days when he was a football journalist for the Journal. I think when you just broke into the Newcastle team, Clarkie, I think you'll remember Jeff working there.
And I work with Jeff on BBC, that's correct.
Of course, that's right. And then later on the show, I'll be talking to Mark Douglas of The Eye, looking ahead to the 3 games, which I'm sure you've been talking about in great detail. But personally, I think this is a big weekend, a big week for all 3 of our clubs.
Cracking. Thanks, Ian. We'll have more from you at 7. I didn't mean it, by the way. I didn't mean it. I'm going to be in trouble now for the next hour. So 7 to 8, Ian Murtagh. Fellas, small matter of Borough and Sunderland. Can we do that next on the 3 legends right across the North East? Now then, do you do sales? Do you fancy a great career challenge? Well, the Red, the Cat and the Toon has a full-time vacancy for a special sales exec. Not only will you be responsible for generating the vital revenue needed to see the North East's newest radio business grow, but you'll grow too. Show us you can do the business and you'll soon become Group Sales Director. Our stations are flying. We have the 3 legends back on air. Then there's the one that most are talking about, the North East Footy Brekkie Show. And there's more to come. Gumption and creativity count more to us than years. You may only have 2 or 3 years selling experience, but if you get what we're trying to achieve, you will be the right fit. You'll ideally be located in Tyneside or Wearside. This will be a hybrid working role. It's a full-time basic plus commission position. So come on, think you have what it takes? Then give us a shout. Email any of the 3 stations. That's hello@thetoonuk.com, hello@thecatuk.com, or hello@thereduk.com.
The North East Footy Breakfast.
I mean, fellas, really, do we have to do this? Can we just not have one off?
I'll sit back and sip my coffee while I grace in your happiness. Let's go.
Yeah, what can you say about the Red and White Wizards? Honestly, just amazing.
You may get all the Saudi cash to play with.
Oh, you mentioned it. Good man.
He brought it up. Brought it up.
Start your day with the North East Footy Breakfast, Monday to Friday, 7 till 9, right here.
Banter at its best. Across the North East, it's the 3 legends.
The Cat, the Toon and the Red.
Lee Clark, Darren Williams, Craig Hignett. Fellas, it's back to you, looking ahead to tomorrow's action. Where are we going to start? Shall we start with Sunderland? Any chance of a repeat, Daz, of a 5-0 drubbing of a decent team?
I mean, I'd confidently say yes, but obviously QPR, not in the best of the forms this season at the moment. It's a tough place to go as Loftus Road, but I think the plus points, coming into it, obviously we're coming in off the back of a fantastic win. We've got obviously the deadline day guys to possibly step into the fray. Obviously a new contract extension for Roberts and obviously Tony Mowbray as well, who was surprised really. He said he didn't know nothing about it, which kind of surprised me in a sense, because I was thinking, well, how would you not know nothing about your contract extension? But apparently he was in his contract, but he just didn't read it.
That was due to the finish, wasn't it? Because they got in the playoff spot, he got an automatic 12-month extension. So that's good news for everyone, I think.
Mate. Yeah, of course it is, mate. 100%. It's massive news, and let's be honest. We've touched on it before. He's done a fantastic season last season, and hopefully, the same, replicate the same again this season, but with the extra thing of going up. But, quietly confident. I think it's, like I say, QPR have been hit and miss of the season so far. I'm hoping, obviously, the guys have come back after international duty, ready and raring to go. I believe Dan Ballard's stepping in it back up. I think Pembele's still a bit off, isn't he? I think he's working on his match fitness in the 23s. But for me, it's we've got a busy schedule coming up, so I think signing the 4 on deadline day, was a massive plus point for us.
New striker through the door as well. He's finally got his work permit. Rushan, the Ukrainian, unfortunate surname, but there you go. Would that give the lads a boost?
I think it's give the lads a boost. I think it's give Tony himself a boost as well. He seems excited about the young lad. He's got he's got bags of potential by all accounts. He's got a good work ethic about him. I just put my front teeth back in. And obviously, like I say, with Roberts as well, Roberts could possibly step back into the starting 11, which is exciting times again. That's kind of on the front foot at the moment, and long may that continue.
Yeah, it's a tough game though, Daz, isn't it? Because QPR beat Borough. Obviously, they played magnificently well to beat Borough 2-0 in the last game, but so it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for you down there, isn't it?
It is, mate. But we all, we have obviously a really good London-based fan base. I'm sure we'll be taking at least 4,000 or 5,000. It'll be going down, and it's a place where we've had a lot of success over the years. And I'm obviously looking forward to it. And obviously the only thing is, look, you always think that QPR, are gonna kickstart at some point. I know you said they beat Middlesbrough previously, but there's going to be some sort of kick point at home for them. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, hopefully it's not this week. And but I'm quietly confident, mate. I think we're playing well. The confidence was high. I just hope the international break hasn't come at the wrong time, really.
Listen, I think we've made no secret of the fact that the three of us massive fans of Tony Mowbray, but even in our praise for him, the job he's doing so far in terms of what he's had to deal with top players going out and untried youngsters coming in, how he's dealt with it and how he's performing and getting those lads playing is superb. It's got to be one of the success stories of the Championship, and if he can keep doing what he's doing, I mean, I watched the game v Southampton and they just obliterated them. One of the favourites, and when you think of the money that they've spent, obviously coming down from the Premier League, and they just absolutely blew them away. And that's, Tony's got to take a lot of credit for what he's doing with these young players, giving them the belief, giving them the organisation and the basis and to play from. Just a superb job, and I got to say, he's one of football's good guys. You want him to do well, and we hope that he can continue with that.
Yeah, listen, I've got no more questions. I've been trying to ask more and more questions so we don't get to talk about Borough at all. But I've ran out of questions. What you having for your tea, Daz?
I'm not too. I'm having steak ciabatta, mate. I think.
Higgy, is there not a little bit of divided loyalties tomorrow, mate, or is it all still with the Borough?
Listen, a little bit, because it's the 5,000th game Blackburn are going to play in the league, and they've been on to me this week, wanted to send a little video, and it just so happens that they're playing Borough, and two clubs where they had a really good time at. Loved the both clubs being at them. Great clubs, like you say, facilities and everything was there. Great managers there. I was playing with me. He was my boy Odiro, really, Suey. Playing for him was great, and obviously playing with Robbo, and they were just legends of the game. So two great clubs. Had a good time at both. It is a little bit divided, but obviously I was at Borough longer. I was at Borough nearly 7 years, so I was only at Blackburn for nearly 3 years before I moved on. But it's still a place where I've got loads of mates and keep in touch with them, go down reunions. We won the Carling Cup there, so we have a reunion every now and again for it, and and it was just a great bunch of lads, and really, like you say, we we probably weren't the best players in the world. We had really good players, don't get me wrong, but we had such a good team spirit that used to see us through at times, and it's carried on when we've all packed in. We've all got a group chat, and we're all on WhatsApp together, and every now and again you'll get a little bit of banter on there.
Will you be happy for a draw tomorrow, pal?
I need the Borough to win. But, I mean, Blackburn can do anything. You know, sometimes they'll throw in a really brilliant performance and you look at them and you think they're a good team. Then other weeks they look a little bit lacklustre and they've lost some players. Obviously, they've lost their big players. Diaz has gone. Dax left them. So, John Dahl Thomason's doing a decent job there. He's having to rebuild. They've brought in some more players. They've started okay. I think the 13th or something like that. They've started all right, but on the day there'll be a match for anyone. But Borough are desperate, Clarkey. They're desperate.
Iggy, we're talking about obviously pressure. Well, you know, obviously some fans saying pressure at Newcastle. Is there pressure on Carrick?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, we all know how good Steve Gibson is as a chairman, and he doesn't do things rashly, and he'll try and give him help and see him through and try and do everything he can to get him on the right path. Michael said this week, he wanted a reset. Hopefully he's got it, but with players flying all over with international duty and that, I don't know how you can do the work when they're away. So it's going to be a little bit hard. I think the big talking point down here with a lot of them is why Riley McGree has been sat on the bench for the last 4 or 5 games. Doesn't seem to get a start. Well, the answer to that is Michael sees him in training. He knows what he's all about. It does look a bit different when he goes away with Australia and he keeps Sammy Silvera out the team. And you wonder why. But he's obviously a talented player, Riley McGree, and I do enjoy watching him play. I think he makes things happen. And sooner or later, you've got to say to your front men, well, your job is to either score a goal or make a goal. Which one is it? Have you made one? Have you scored one? And you can put them stats up after 4 or 5 games, and if they haven't created anything, or they haven't scored a goal, or they haven't made a goal, then surely you'd make changes. That's the way I'd look at it as a manager. You know, everyone's got a job, and are you doing your job? A winger's job would be to get as many crosses in as he can, maybe chip in with the odd goal. You know, a centre forward's job is obviously scoring goals or making goals, and it's the same with all the forward-thinking players. And I'd judge them on that. You know, after 3 or 4 games, if you haven't created nothing or scored, then I'm looking elsewhere and saying, listen, he might need a little rest. He's not in the right form, and we'll put Riley McGree in and have a go. I think Riley McGree will probably start because he needs to do something, Michael, because the performances, the QPR one was worse than what we've seen. It just wasn't, it wasn't great. But the group of players there, he obviously believes in them. He sees them every day in training, and he knows what they're capable of. And he's just hoping that they produce it, but produce it more often than not produce it. And that's the hard thing. The consistency level is something that he's really struggling with at the moment.
So we've got to get into predictions. So we'll start with Iggy. You're the last one to speak about your team. Where are you going with the Borough tomorrow? Scorelines.
Every week I've said they'll win and they haven't, so I'm going to say they're going to get beat 1-0.
Reverse psychology, I love it. Daz,
love that, Iggy.
Sunderland, Daz.
I'm going to say stay strong, but I think it's going to be tough. I'm going to go 3-1 Sunderland.
Ooh, big win at QPR then.
He's too cocky.
Okay, then let's get into the Premier League. Lee, United, what they're going to do?
A nerve-jangling 2-1 win to set them up nicely for Tuesday night in Milan.
Sounds a bit different, doesn't it? UEFA Champions League. We're gonna call it the Carabao Champions Cup. That Borough are playing in.
I missed that bit, mate.
Fellas, we're out of time. You've done it again. We'll catch you next Friday. Magnificent stuff. Have a safe weekend and week ahead.
Good luck. All the best.
Cheers. Thank
all
you.
the best, guys.
The 3 legends across the northeast. Clark, legend. Williams, legend. Hignett, legend. WhatsAppers, call or send a voice message. Banter at its best. 033 00 43 2002.
Right across the northeast, the Toon, the Cat and the Red.